We spend, say, 25 hours a week on our physical prep. Why aren't we spending 25 hours on our mental side?
We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Welcome to Finances, your home for all things financial, investment, money and lifestyle. Hosted and curated by the very talented team of certified financial planners at Burke, Britton Financial Partners. So this is episode number 119 of the Finances podcast. Today's guest sent us through a little bio. Now, all she said was she's a sole trader and a freelancer. I think you might have been a little bit, you might have missed a few things there, Maddie. Madi Browne. Now, Maddie, we caught up at a lunch for Read the Play just a couple of months ago, but for those people that don't know you, and listen, I'm guilty of, I'm a couple of years older than you, a few years older than you. I'm out of the loop with sport. For those people listening to this podcast and don't know who you are, if you don't mind, let's go right back. We started talking about your parents and being in a band and you playing tambourine, but let's start. You're a Geelong girl. Where did you grow up? What was like for you when you landed on this earth?
Well, I mean, thank you for having me. First financial podcast. I love it for me. So, grew up in Geelong. Mum and dad, born and bred down here. Grew up in Wandana Heights. I actually, at 18 months old, was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis in my right knee. And so they took me around to a whole lot of doctors and stuff like that. And they're like, she'll be on half an aspirin probably for the rest of her life. And my mum was like, not a medication person, absolutely not. What are our other alternatives? So
sounds like your parents were hippies, is that right?
They're not, not at all. But mum's always been like that little bit more alternative, or happy to look at those different approaches. Like we don't have to just go mainstream and what one person says goes. So it does sound like that, and they're absolutely far from it, Jay, which is why it's so funny. But I went to a naturopath, and they were just like, sport's going to be her medicine. So keep her active, keep her moving, and hopefully, the symptoms will stay away. And so I did swimming, athletics, netball, basketball, dancing, singing, played the piano, everything. I also was a pretty bubbly personality, so it was like, okay.
So this is not just an act. This is
me pretty much all the time. And yeah, it was like, how can she meet friends? How can we keep her active? How can we tire her out? Because I wasn't a good sleeper either. But yeah, that's how my sporting journey kind of came about. But Dad played footy for Geelong back in BFL days. I think he played 87 games in the 70s, not quite good enough to make the 100. And if he had boys, we would have really been struggling with the father-son. So 11 games short really did us no justice there. And Mum played local netball. She played for Leopold and she played for Newcombe, won multiple premierships. I think she was a BFL best and fairest at one stage. So sport was always in our blood. It was like, this is what Mum and Dad love. This is what we do. And then the musical side as well. So Mum and Dad play in a band still. They met in Teachers College or university. And the band started then. Dad plays the drums. Mum's the lead singer, and they had like a 5-piece band. The guy on the keyboard's been with them the whole time, and then a few different lead guitarists.
What kind of music do they play?
Just covers. So they always did like your Deb Balls and sang at a lot of weddings. So when I then became a teenager, I'd be, hanging out with, I'd be like, oh, I met this person, and Mum would be like, oh yeah, sang at their wedding. I'd be like, oh, I can't know anyone around here without you knowing their parents first. So music was a huge part of our life as well. So we grew up on the side of the stage. So sport, music, always a big part of it. I grew up playing my first netball game on the courts at Gadinia Park. So I love going down there and seeing these young girls. I mean, Dad and Mum would say both netball and basketball didn't come naturally at the start when I was 10. I used to run around holding my bib or swinging around the post or doing cartwheels or running around holding my bib, and Dad's like, oh my God, she's a dud. Like, what's she going to, how much patience do we show in this kid? And then all of a sudden my passion just came, and I would have a ball in my hand before school, during school, after school. Mum and Dad were both teachers, so we'd always be there early. And I just honed in on my skills then, and then just kind of followed the netball pathway. I had to make the decision when I was 17 whether it would be basketball or netball, because I was playing both state at that time. And Little Miss Independent Maddie went to the basketball trials, and they said, I said, I have to leave early because I've already made the state netball team. I've made a commitment. We've just got to get from Ballarat to Melbourne in time. And they said, you leave, you won't be selected. I said, all right, let's go. Grabbed my bag and said to Mum, we're off. And she goes, what? I was like, let's go. We're out of here. So that was kind of how netball really kind of chose me in a way. And then I followed that pathway. So lots of ups and downs from there with my career.
How was school? Were you good at school? Were you interested in school? Or?
I loved school. I did enjoy school. I loved the sports side of school. I went to Belmont High School. Dad was a Belmont High School boy. Primary school was Grovedale West and then Montpelier, because Mum changed schools and was an assistant principal in my grade 6 year. So that was kind of hard as a kid, but a lot of the kids I went to Belmont High School were at Montpelier. So that kind of helped that transition a little bit. But I loved school. I was in a diabolical yearly grade, to the point that we had sub teachers all the time because boys would be punching on. And there was one kid that went through the window one day, and I remember my mum going, should we move you to Sacred Heart? Oh, what are you thinking? And I was like, I'm not a Sacred Heart girl. That's not my personality. I'm happy to tough it out and grind it out here. I really enjoyed it. I loved the sport program. I do have a story though, because one time my PE report came back and it was really bad, and my mum was like, excuse me, this is not happening. Why is this? You never know who's going to ask for your PE report when you go for a job. So she went and asked the teacher to rectify it. Why is it so bad? And he's like, because she's never here. She goes, because she's representing the state and she's doing all these things. Because I was out obviously doing state commitments and stuff like that. So he was like, she's never here. But
should get credit for that.
Yeah.
Go mum. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, she got my year 9 report changed or whatever.
She did get a change.
Yeah,
Good
she
on
did.
You, Mum.
Because so many people have asked for it in the jobs that I've done after school, not. But and the other thing about school was I had to work hard for my grades. I wasn't a naturally gifted kid, but I had really good work.
Hang on, you just said that Mum got you a pass and a
yeah, because I was already doing other stuff. But I had to work for everything, but I had a really good work ethic and I was prepared to work hard to the point that then I'd usually finish my work on time and then annoy everyone else and chat away, and they'd be like, oh, she's great, but, she also talks a lot. And Mum would be like, well, keep her busy.
What did your report say? Did it say something like likes to be the centre of attention? Was it
No, it was completes
easily
her
distracted?
work,
Okay.
completes her
others.
work and then distracts others. And I think I remember Mum even saying, do you know what? That was on my report card as well, so don't even worry about it.
It sounds like a standard state school upbringing. It's a bit like Ryan North Delta.
Yeah.
So there's the story in this business is that Peter, my father, is a PE teacher. So he was a PE teacher beforehand. He worked out at Cryo North.
And maths teacher. Have to add that in.
And a maths teacher.
Yes.
And Delta was an ex-student of Peter's.
Oh, right.
And so as the story goes, for just about anyone that comes into this business, they will know Peter through. He was either a teacher, so your parents would be the same.
Exactly the
everyone
same.
knows, Mr. and Mrs. Brown.
Yep.
Know them from, they were a teacher at some point in time.
And that's usually how they address. We've got a family friend who was my grade 1 and 2 teacher. I don't say anything other than Miss Willis. I can't call her by her first name. I don't know her as anything else other than my teacher. And you're right. That's how students even come up to my mum and dad.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Brown. Hello, Mr. I'm like, who are they? Yep.
Yeah.
Or it's even coaching, local coaching and stuff like that, because Mum's heavily involved in South Barwon, or was.
Yeah. So very well known. I love the fact that at 17 you had to make that decision about basketball or netball. What a pivotal moment for you at such a tender age. But you obviously did that with conviction when you said to Mum, that's it, we're out of here, let's go.
Yeah, I think everyone had said, you're going to have to make the call, you're going to have to make the call. And I just was like, I honestly believed that I was like, it'll just kind of happen. And
Okay.
I think I take that from, 17 into life at the moment. Like, it'll all work itself out. It'll be hard at times, and at times you'll be like, oh my goodness, have I made the right decision? But it'll all work out. And I'm a really big believer in, like, once you make the decision, then you make that a good decision. So then you put all your eggs in that basket, you give it everything you've got. And then if it doesn't work, then it's a really good learning experience. But I tried to play both as long as I could. And I'm glad I went down the netball pathway. As I said, it was also like I'd made a commitment to one. I'm going to see that through. I was in that, do I go to the States and play college basketball? Stayed in Melbourne and got the call up to Melbourne Kestrels just out of high school. We were on a family holiday watching my sister play basketball, came out of the pictures, and there was a missed call on Mum's phone. And I was like, wondering whether Maddie can be at training on Saturday, and this was a Thursday night. And I was like, oh, too bad we're on holidays. Mum's like, no, you're flying back. Like, you got to go. I was like, okay, all right. So flew back on my own. My pop picked me up, went to trained with the Kestrels for 2 weeks and then got on the list. So
for timeline, was this circa 2007?
2006.
Okay.
Yeah. So finished high school in 2005, started a primary school teaching degree at Deakin University. Mum and Dad were teachers, figured, I'll do that as well. And then, got picked up 2006 with the Melbourne Kestrels. My netball idol was Shelley O'Donnell, and she was in the team. So I rocked up to the first training and I was like, oh my goodness, but she wasn't there.
Did you call her Mrs. O'Donnell?
No, I didn't. I didn't say a word to her at all.
You were starstruck completely.
Yeah, so she wasn't there for the first week of training, and then she rocked up in the second week, and she was obviously deciding whether she would continue to play or retire, and she retired. So then a mid-court position popped up, and I luckily got her spot. So it was a bit of oh my goodness, massive shoes to fill. Not that I'm going to fill them, but I emulated the way I played from watching her. So it was kind of fitting.
So what sort of style is that for someone who's an absolute netball?
Nuff. I was agility, obviously quite a shorter player, really good hand skills, decision maker, played wing attack, so a bit of the playmaker down the attack end. She was very calm and composed. She just kind of moved very seamlessly across the court, but could absolutely dominate with the ball in hand, especially in netball when you can't move your feet. She could take the game on, and every time she had the ball, you were like, she's going to do something really good with it. So that's how I hoped I played my career anyway.
Did you defer uni, or did you keep studying throughout that time?
I kept studying, and I did obviously play the first 2 years, 06 and 07 with the Melbourne Kestrels, and then I got asked to go play in Perth, which was a huge move back then, because let's put the figures on this. I was getting paid $200 a game.
It's about how much I was getting paid to play local footy.
Yeah.
In 2003.
Some guys were getting paid $500, for best on ground, and yet $200. There was a squad of 16. I had to get picked in the 12, and only if I got picked in the 12 would I get my $200. I was studying here at Wampons at Deakin, driving up and down 4 to 5 times a week. I literally got my license on my birthday in January, because it was I have to be able to get to training.
So what did you do for money? Did you study? Did Mum and Dad help you out?
Well, I'd worked over the summer down in Lorne. We had a holiday house down, or have a holiday house down there, so I'd be scooping ice creams and stuff like that. And then once I was 18, I worked at the pub. I'd worked in the surf shops. I did all of that. So I had a little bit of pocket money, but not a lot. And it was really, really hard, because it was how am I going to do all of this, study, try and lift off a bit of a sporting career? Not that there was ever any money in women's sport back then at all. So $200 a game, I think I made $1,200 or $1,500 for the year, and I would have spent 6 times that in petrol. So I was very much in a deficit. I was in the red zone quite a lot. But then I moved to Perth for 2 years, and I continued to do my last couple of years of study, and so finished my teaching degree in 4 years.
And was there a change in, you mentioned that there's no money in netball. What's been the progression over your time of sort of income for players in netball?
Well, when I first started, so back in 2006, I think, like the likes of a Shelley O'Donnell or even a Liz Ellis, who was very well known, was making nearly $9,000 a year. Like that's what they were making, and they were playing for their country. Not a lot of, sponsorship or commercial value in it at all. And then, I was making junior rookie $1,500. Woohoo! And then as my career has gone, which has been the span of 15 years at the elite level, I've actually been in a really good time because I have seen it progress. And I think it was back in 2017, roughly around about then, that's when we started to get a minimum wage of $40,000. Still not great, but from 1,500 to 40 in the space of a couple of years was like massive. And now, I mean, we're up just up over the 40 for our rookies. Each club in the Suncorp Super Netball has obviously a cap, so they can't go above too much, but they can obviously do little side hustles. And then you've got your commercial values and sponsors and bits and pieces. But for some reason, netball's really hard to commercialize. So you do what you can, but from the rookies, some would be making maybe $45,000, $50,000 a year for a 12-month contract, having to give nearly 30 hours a week, and to your high elite players that would be then playing national stuff, going through like a big span of it, they can be making 150 plus with their sponsors and stuff.
Okay, so when you're, we didn't touch on it, but you're also a Commonwealth Games gold medalist, silver medalist. You played for your country for 61
tests.
61 tests.
Yep.
Do you get paid to play for Australia or not?
You do. You get a daily rate. But this is the thing: when you're in camp and when you're on tour, you get paid. But what happens when you have to do the 3-week, 4-week training block before you get into camp? Like you're not getting subsidised from the diamonds, but because you're on now a 12-month contract with your local club, you're still getting obviously that bit of income in. So netball, when I first started, was 8 months contract. So you'd have 8 months of, your $1,500, not great, or, it slowly started. I think even when I went to Perth, I was on like $20,000 and I was like, oh, this is really good. Definitely taught me how to be frugal with my money and save where I could. But I always wanted to continue to have a career alongside the netball because I financially, sport wasn't going to pay the bills or put food in front of me. So I've always had a job, even right to the very end of my career for 15 years. Even when I probably didn't have to in that later part, I still worked. I still had a job. Do
they give you any sort of coaching, training, education around managing money? Like you go from earning, a couple of $100 a game to even 45 grand.
Yeah.
I know plenty of people, my kids included, that if all of a sudden they had 45 grand, they would probably not know what to do with it. Is there any of that?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we're just like the resources are really strong. I mean, they can put you in, they have like everyone's got contacts. And that was why like when I was at the Vixens and then Collingwood had a team, it wasn't so much like I didn't move for like I'd been at the Vixens for nearly 9 years. I was very comfortable. I was very safe. I wanted to be part of something from the beginning. Like it's really rare that you get to start a foundation club. It was hard. It was challenging. I mean, now it's defunct. Like there's no more Collingwood Magpies. It only lasted 6 or 7 years, which is sad, but it's a good decision for them anyway. But for me, I moved because I was like, I'm at the latter part of my career. I'm going to be exposed to some really quality people that when I do transition out of sport, I'm going to hopefully have made some really good relationships and connections that I can utilize.
But
so
how did that, like most people don't think like that. Like how did you think about like the things you've said about making good use of your money and creating connections? That's not everyone. So who are your mentors? Who was showing you what to do with your money? Were your mum and dad fiscally responsible or?
No, I've always been, well, since when I was 18, I was in full control of my money and stuff like that. I think I just have really good role models and examples. I mean, we had wonderful family holidays. Like my mum and dad are asset rich, cash poor. That's what they say. Like they're very, like they don't have a lot of expensive stuff. Like we didn't need it. We just had really good quality experiences and spent great time together. Like when I think of my childhood memories, it is about going outside in the backyard, shooting that, I've got to shoot that winning goal. And, and even in our house, we used to have brick walls everywhere and we used to throw netballs off it everywhere. And people would come and be like, how do you allow your kids to do that? And I was like, it's fun. It's brick walls. They're fine. But we'd throw it off everywhere. We'd be rollerblading. It was just all about that quality time, not about really expensive stuff. So I think I learnt from them and how they've been so good with their money.
It helps to have good mentors. Do you agree, Delta?
Yeah, it's about the memories that you're making together rather than the material possessions that you might have in your house.
So I've never valued that higher than, you know what, I really want to go on a holiday. So I'm going to save my money and this is where I want to go. So that's what I'm going to spend it on, like those experiences.
You've got a few side hustles. I know your and your website. People can jump on and have a look. But you do a bunch of things. So you're a commentator on Fox. Where else are you speaking? Have you got your own podcast? I've heard you on a few other podcasts. Have you got your own now or not?
I'm actually looking into starting one. So stay tuned on that. But I love coming on these as guests, supporting local businesses and things like that. Sports commentator, obviously for Fox with the netball. I love it. You talk about training and stuff like that. Like I'd been a leader of my netball team and things like that. So I'd always done media stuff, but never really had any media training, just got thrown in the deep end, live TV. It was just like, wow.
How structured is it? Do they give you a rundown on what you're going to do? Or is it just like there's a mic, start talking?
Well, there's a rundown sheet like this is where we're going, but also then you'll have an earpiece in, and I think this is where people just forget, like you've got an earpiece in and then you've got someone talking to you whilst you're trying to like verbally say something that's actually like going to make sense to people, and they're saying, yep, wrap it up, you've got 10 seconds, and you're like, oh my goodness, okay, I've got to, so all of that's been learning. I do a little bit with SEN as well on the netball, and I really enjoy the radio. I'm not a real girly girl, so like I do enjoy being on TV, but being there 4 hours before to just get my hair and makeup done, I'm like, put me on radio where I can just rock up like this and just talk. But then doing some MCing gigs, been doing some stuff around Geelong here, and then, getting involved with some local initiatives like Read the Play. And, it's nice to be back home. I moved out when I was 18 and I'm 36 now. It's nice to be back in the community that I love and ready to give back and get immersed in it.
Geelong still feels like home?
It does. I mean, we've moved down to Torquay, which is kind of good because it's like I don't really know Torquay, neither does my partner Harry. So it's nice that we're kind of exploring a new place on our own with being a young family with a little bub. So it's great.
Maddie, can I just ask, talking about your media roles at the moment, who are the big supporters of women's sports at the moment? Who should we be getting behind to make sure that we can have more women's sports on screens, supported, get people along to games?
Well, I think it is like getting to as many games as you can, like get down and watch the Geelong Cats, the women's play, like get along to those games in AFLW. Alyssa Healy, I think she's great in the cricket space. She is always about promoting and talking about it. And obviously she's married to Mitchell Stark, so she's got that real like, this is what he's getting and this is what I'm getting, and I'm probably better than him. My accolades speak for themselves. So do you know what I mean? Like I think it's great to hear stories like that. In the netball space, I guess, we obviously on Fox Netball, we try and promote all of our different stories because we've got a lot of international players as well. Last year I was really lucky to go to the Netball World Cup, which was in Cape Town. Massive opening experience, but worked with a whole lot of different, obviously, different nations, different media people. Some of them had rocked up from Uganda and had never been in front of a camera, and literally were just like deers in headlights, which is like, we're like, you need to speak now. So it was massive, but it was such a cool experience. I actually never got to play in a Netball World Cup. Every time there was a Netball World Cup, I did a knee, unfortunately. But com games were my thing. But it was a really cool experience, I think, to go and be part of something that I loved. And obviously love netball. I love the sport. So I love talking about it. We'll just see how it goes. But I think the biggest thing for women's sport, even the Geelong United basketball, like, get out to the arena, go see the girls play. The more you can get behind it, read it, like it, follow it, buy your little $15 memberships, whatever it is. That's the only way we're going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I think the WNBL put on a pretty good show too, don't they?
Yeah, it's all a bit of a fun fair for the family.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned, we talked a bit about the highlight reels of your career. You know, there's, I forgot to mention, I listened to one of your podcasts and the person said, listen, we're going to do a full podcast of your accolades. There's a bunch of them. Liz Ellis medal a couple of times. If you look at the highlight reel of your career, it's amazing. But your career is also intertwined with some pretty significant setbacks. Let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned you started with that sort of juvenile arthritis, but then you've had some catastrophic knee injuries which have really stunted your career on the court. Talk to me a little bit about what happened, and also this might be a nice segue into kind of the mental health aspect of your ambassadorship with Read the Play.
Yeah, so I mean, like any sporting journey, I guess it's a whole bunch of highs and lows, and I had a lot of really good highs and a lot of really low lows. Through, speaking about my junior career, like coming through the ranks, I was very successful. I'd make teams, I'd try out, and it was probably not until I was like 22 that it was like when I first went to a trials and, didn't make it. How am I going to deal with that rejection? Like, what do I do with that motivation kind of thing? It was Delhi Commonwealth Games. I was in the mix for the Diamonds. I'd been part of the training program. There was 15. We'd travelled to Kuala Lumpur. We'd done a whole lot of stuff. And then I sat in a hotel room and there were 3 coaches sitting in like this semicircle and this one like piggy in the middle seat. And you'd just walk in there and you sat down there and they're like, it's a no, you're too young, you're too inexperienced. And you're like, oh gosh, like how hard is that to cop, because you've just done, a whole lot of training and stuff with them. 3 of us got sent home and the rest of them went into the village in obviously Delhi. So even I think with those like kind of selection announcements, it's come a long way. I think, sometimes you get an email, sometimes you get a text, sometimes they would make you stand up in front of people. Other times you'd go into a room.
I'm surprised it's not a reality TV show. Have you seen the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders one? That sounds what they sit them down and say, sorry,
100%. Your kick is not high enough. Yeah, I
I'm
know.
sorry, your hips are a little bit wide. You're out. Well, what?
Yes, I know. So like really, really hard to cop. But I think having those types of experiences along my journey helped, that when in 2014 was probably my best year. I'd won a premiership with the Melbourne Vixens, Commonwealth Games gold in Glasgow. I'd won my first Liz Ellis diamond. So for those not knowing, it's the netball Brownlow.
And you won 2 of them, by the way. No one else has done that, have they?
There's 2 others that have done 2. No one's done 3. But okay. I was the first one I was the very first person to ever go for 2. And yeah, hopefully the ones that have got 2 don't get it. But no, that's okay. They're very, very, very good players, Liz Watson and Courtney Bruce. But like I'd had the best season of my career. And then round 6 over in Perth, which I think also very fitting, a place that had really started to give me my opportunity. Went for a centre pass and my knee gave way. It was in a World Cup year. Went down, knew instantly. I was like, this is what everyone talks about. This is definitely an ACL. So rehabbed that back, got back, had a really good season, then moved along to Collingwood. 2019, I went through a lot of personal stuff off the netball court. Obviously, being married, divorced, a whole lot of things happening. And I think, my head was in one place and my ass was in another. And as much as I thought I could channel everything into netball, I just obviously was a bit of a basket case. Once again, pre-season match, same right knee, went again, tried to rehab it to get 2 weeks out of round 1, thought, I can get back. Went in for surgery. So second ACL. It actually was a really bad one because they'd said I hadn't done it from the scans, but it actually didn't. It wasn't attached at the screw. So when I went in to see the surgeon, he goes, "Look, I think you're 95% going to have one. I have a replacement or a reconstruction, but I don't know until I get in there." So I was like 5% going, hopefully my season is still. So woke up both knees were bandaged and I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. And I knew I was towards the end of my career. My sister had just come back. She was playing in Queensland. She'd just come back. We're 4 years apart, so we haven't played a lot of netball together even growing up. But she'd come to Collingwood in 2019. We were going to play as this sister duo on court. I did my knee. End of 2019, she did a knee. Dad's done 2. Mum's done 1. Or Dad's done 1. Mum's done 1, I've done 2, Kelsey's done 1. So knees are not good in our family at all.
Might keep Judd away from
he's
sports.
not doing anything on floorboard. Floorboards are not great. I really probably should have played footy or something on grass, something a little bit softer.
Footy's not that great for the knees either. Your dad had attested that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason he'd done his was because when he was 15, he did it. They went in, they took the cartilage out, but he'd actually done his ACL. So he was then bone on bone. So his knees are not great at all, to the point that we have a lift in our holiday house because none of us can get up the stairs at times because we're like, but I think through those really hard injuries, they're really kind of like soul searching and they're great growth moments. And I think as much as, maybe I might have played for 18 seasons, not 15. Maybe I would have played more games for my country. Maybe I would have had more achievement. Maybe I would have won another premiership. There's so many, maybe I could have done all of these if I had have stayed healthy and fresh. But when I think about being 18 months old, and mum and dad saying, look, if she plays sport, that'll be a miracle. You've really got to keep this arthritis at bay. It was all a bonus. It was all so good. And, through those injuries, it's isolating, it's lonely because you're in a team sport and then you're having to work hard on your own. And I wouldn't change my career, even though it was really hard at times with the setbacks. I've also had a third clean out on that right knee and I've just had an ankle reconstruction on my left, purely because of 15 years of netball. Put it this way, I played hard. I gave it absolutely everything. My body was like, I've had enough. But through those times, you talk about that mental side. There's times where you're just not motivated. You don't want to do it. It's too hard. It can't be bothered. But for me, it's been the support of my family, knowing that I was a bit of I don't need to go to a psychologist early days. I had that real negative stigma around it. I don't need it. I'm fine. I'll sort it out. I'm strong enough. And then I went to one and I think I was in there for 2 hours and cried for 2 hours. I had a lot of built up emotion and I'm a huge advocate. You have to go and talk to people, and as much as you think you can talk to your family about it, sometimes it's great to just hear a stranger's perspective. You've also got to find that person that resonates with you, but huge believer in talking about it. I do a lot of, mindfulness. I meditate for at least 10 minutes every day, just on the Calm app. Even if it's just to work on my breath. As I went through those injuries, I continued to reframe what that mental toughness, but also that training that I needed. Because even when you come back from an injury, you do the physical side and it's easy to know how you've progressed. Mental side of stuff, you don't know, and you've got to be ready mentally to get back out on that court. So I did it twice and then I was like, nah, that's absolutely it. I'm done. My body's giving it all. There is a life after sport, and I want to be able to run after my kid or kids, and not be like, sorry, mum's coming with her walking stick. I want to be able to be active with them.
You're probably pretty fortunate in the environment that you're in with elite sport. I'm assuming there was some support there. You've got great family. We're talking to Michelle Gertz. We've had Michelle on the podcast a couple of times about those people who aren't so fortunate. It tends to be, I don't think I'd be stretching it too far to say there's kind of an epidemic of mental health with young kids. And as a father of 5 myself and 3 young girls, 2 young boys, it worries me. And for those people, it's probably going into your role as ambassador for Read the Play. What are your thoughts around kids? What's a message to young kids who are dealing with maybe not exactly the same challenges that you've had, but what is your message to them in terms of how to deal with some of the troubles and tribulations in their lives as they're growing up?
Well, I think first and foremost, every challenge is valid. Everyone goes through, and it doesn't matter what like maybe severity it is. Like everything is like every person's hardship is valid to them. And I think it's acknowledging, okay, I am struggling and it's totally normal. Like everyone does. I think now that we talk about it more, it feels like, oh, you know, so many people go through this at different stages of their life, knowing that there is someone there to talk to. There is always someone, and it might not be the person that you expect. It might not be your mum or your dad or a brother or a sibling or an auntie or an uncle. It might not be them. It might be someone at the club that's an older role model. Like growing up through South Barwon, like we had a lot to do with the football and the netball side of things, and I know that I could call on a whole lot of them if I really, really needed to. Even as a 16-year-old, I could call them up and say, I'm in trouble. Like I don't know what to do. I need to speak to someone. And if they didn't know, you know, what to say or how to help me, then they'd be able to put me in the right direction. So I think it's knowing that, yes, this is totally normal. Like everyone deals with these types of struggles. It's very valid to you, and there's always a solution. My mum, I think, and dad have instilled in us like this, you know, there's no judgment. Mum would be like, you can come and tell me absolutely anything. The worst thing in life is death. We can sort out anything else. So that's been a big part of my upbringing, and I think, yeah, instilling that in young kids, like anything, we can work through anything, but what we can't do is if you make a really poor choice and you're no longer here. We don't want that at all. And I've been at local clubs where one of our young boys obviously committed suicide. So there's a lot of that, and I think the more we talk about it, the more we say, yep, it's okay, it's normal, we can support you. But yeah, it's knowing those signs too. And I'm a big relationship person, so I think the young kids, there's a lot of really great mentors. Like, open yourself up, be vulnerable. It's really hard to do that, but once you make a connection with a person, knowing that you can go to them at any time. I couldn't care less if I made a connection with someone or they call me at 4 a.m. I need you, 100%. We'd all be there. So, yeah, I'm excited about being a patron for Read the Play. I think they do incredible work within local sporting clubs. Sporting clubs are like the heart and soul, I think, of, you know, especially down this way. Everyone's been a part of it, whether you've worked in the canteen or you've got a kid that's played or, you know someone that's played. So, yeah, they play a pivotal role, I think, in educating, talking about it, and supporting these kids when they need it.
How long have you been a patron for Read the Play?
What, not even 6 months?
Yep. And what was the impetus to do that? How did you get in touch with Michelle? Did she reach out to you, or was there some other connection?
Well, so Michelle used to work at Netball Victoria, so I was a Melbourne Vixens player, and she was actually the general manager, and I had to tell Michelle that I was moving to Collingwood, and she was like, Madison, don't do that to me, because I'd obviously known her from being through from Geelong. She'd been at Bell Park, so seen and known Michelle through my netball days. And yeah, when I moved back down here, I reached out to her and I said, hey, I'd love to catch up with you, Gertzie. Like, I know she's a very well-connected person. I'm wanting to, as I said, immerse myself back into the community again. I just want to be exposed to stuff. She goes, I've actually got something I'd really like to talk to you about, because she knows that's where my journey started. I started as a local football local football netball club as a netballer. She knows how I've had my struggles, and bits and pieces, and friends and family have also had. So yeah, she spoke to me about it, and I was like, oh my goodness, sign me up today. Why didn't you call me 10 years ago?
It's so pleasing to hear talk about, you know, networks, connections, your resilience, like all of those themes that I just hear you saying, Maddie, is just, yeah, lovely to hear. Then you think about Read the Play, trying to do something in that space and make sure kids feel connected. They've got relationships with mentors at the club that they can reach out to. Like, it's so powerful, isn't it?
It is. And like, I think, you know, people at the club forget how impactful they can be in a young kid's life at times. Like, you know, the way that the club, you know, the culture word is thrown around, but it is. It's how do you make these kids feel when they're here in there? What are they being exposed to? You know, what are those key messages that, you know, I think of sport has played a huge part in my life, but it is those lessons, those life lessons that I think back to, yeah, when I was 15 playing at a local club, they're still ringing in my ear some of those things of what I do today and how I make a choice and, stop and think and then make that choice or, call someone first. My mum always says sometimes it's better to just talk it out with someone and then, then you're like, actually, that is such a dumb thing to do. I won't do that. I think, the importance of talking about it, those relationships and a lot of those relationships now that I've, haven't been here for 15 plus years, I'm still connected with those people. They play such a big part of my life.
Yeah, it's funny thinking about the relationships. I grew up around the Bell Park Footy Club and, there's people that I remember that, as mentors in the club that, to this day, like you said, to this day, their messages have stayed with me or, I resonated with their personality or how they dealt with people in the world. I think what's evolved and what Michelle's done such an amazing job of is kind of formalising that. You've got great people in all of these clubs. You've got great mentors and great leaders, but actually putting a framework and some structure around it so that consistently across the board, like you said, that the thread that holds the Geelong community together and beyond that is sport. How do we actually make sure that the issues that kids are having today, we can really give them or formalise those mentorship programs and the lessons learned. I think Michelle should be given every plaudit and award that exists because the work that she's done to give it voice has been absolutely amazing.
And just even taking, like I said, I had that negative stigma around, you got to speak to someone, something must be wrong, that's a sign of weakness. I think removing all of that, putting people, that they might have looked up to, a Cameron Ling or someone like that, seeing how successful he was but then hearing his stories and how he's gone about those things, I think it's really important. And even people at the club, like sharing their stories and going, like you said, I look up to them, but gosh, they've had similar, struggles like me, or maybe I could tap into them. Or as I said, you hear someone's story and then when you feel it, you're like, I know exactly the person I need to go to. But yeah, relationships is a huge part of it. And taking that stigma away from it and going, you know what, if you need help, there's always help there and there's always a solution that could be found.
You went to the breakfast with Michelle Delta. What else of a Read the Play got coming up? I know we had. Did you go to the day at the Cardinia Park? Did you do the Pilates there or not?
Serenity in the stadium. Yeah, that was brilliant. I'm looking forward to next year. I think we had 300 people or so along this year.
Did you do the class?
No, I was on a scooter in a cast then. Right, so I was doing yoga on my couch. But no, I would definitely be there next year. I think it's an incredible initiative and what a great way to start your morning. I mean, how often do you ever get to go on GMHBA Stadium? Like never.
The sun was rising. It was peaceful. It was, perfect way to start the day. So I think the aim is for 1,000 people next year. So, and I think if you think about Read the Play, especially for young people and getting involved via the sporting clubs that a lot of young people are part of, like that proactive nature of, we know that, people have tough times, but here's the wellbeing support officer that we can talk to. Here are some activities that we'll do as a group to give you some of the words that you need to recognise maybe what resources. You're going through. Yeah, but that proactive nature, like I every time I think about it, I think, why do we not give more funding to programs such as Read the Play? Why do we wait till we're at a crisis point where we help our young people?
Well, I even think like at the elite level, like closer to the end of my career was a very big, like I wanted to push going, we spend say 25 hours a week on our physical prep. Why aren't we spending 25 hours on our mental side? Like, why are we like so, I get it, the physical ability out there, you've got to train it, but you have to train the mind as well. And I don't even think at the elite level, I think it's obviously a lot better now, but, they should at least be spending 10 hours. And that might be a chat with a psychologist or a wellbeing officer. It might be like, you might spend your hour going out with someone different at the club and hearing their story and what theirs is, or, are you doing some meditation? Are you doing some, float tanks or I don't know, anything that's going to just help you really start to train that brain so when you're under pressure, you're under fatigue, you can still make really good choices. And that's whether you're on the field, off the field, on the court or whatever. Like, just I think those resources and even young kids, like, and I would have been this, I would have done the read the play thing and gone, yeah, that's great, cool. I've seen the resources, but I don't need them right now.
Yeah, it's not for me.
And that I think is also something to talk about. You might not need it now, but at some point you will.
Yeah.
So soak it all up, because when the time you need to draw back on it, you'll be like, how good was that program? Because now I'm well equipped. I'm not looking lost going, I have no idea what to do next.
Or you're well equipped to help a friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you see a sign.
Yeah. Thinking about school, this is a bugbear of mine, maybe on the financial literacy, but also mental health and physical health. My thoughts around this from the schooling point of view is that these are things that just should be just mandated as a part of what we go through in school. Like, you got to give kids the skills to be able to deal with physical, mental health, literacy, and all the things that they're going to deal with in the future. And it shouldn't be up to organisations like Read the Play, and it shouldn't be exclusively for people who move into professional sport that have the resources to do that. So hopefully, people out there listening to this podcast, I know we've tried our best to support Read the Play, and our clients have done an amazing job, which has gone some way. But I think the more we can do, the greater voice that you can give Maddie and people like Cameron Ling and other people that support Read the Play. I think it can only be helpful.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jay. I think, having a teaching background and like the curriculum, I mean, you finish school and you're like, okay, how do I adult now? Like, actually giving some really good life lessons. Maybe that should be a subject, like how to adult properly.
How to prepare a tax return.
Yeah, but whether that's finances, whether that's how you do your internet banking, whether that's even like how do you plan a week? How do you time manage? Like little things like that. Like, you have your school diary, but how many times did you write in it? You were usually writing people's numbers on I love so and so or whatever. Like, you're not. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe that should be a subject that should be pushed, and things like the mental side of things. Like, you could do a whole lot of stuff, but these are things that we need to tackle.
Life skills 101.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Yeah, just because life is hard.
Yeah.
And it's even like when I go and do netball clinics and you're with the young kids and they're like, oh, school. And I'm like, school will be the best part of your life, because you rock up, you know what you're doing, and then you leave. Like, wait until you have to make all these decisions yourself and organise your catch up with your girlfriends. Like, wait until all of that happens. Like, you just want to finish school, but you're like, am I really equipped to finish school and move out into the real world?
Yeah, and like I said earlier, like those of us that are fortunate enough to have great mentors, great family, that transition can be easier than those people who don't have those things.
Yeah.
And we support a bunch of other organisations. We had the Wombats Wish event on Sunday. Was it Sunday?
Yeah.
With kids who have lost parents. Like, there's people out there that don't have mentorship, they don't have that support around them. So anything that we can do to support them, I think, is a positive.
Huge.
I'm mindful of everyone's time. Delta, I think you've got another appointment in about 10 minutes. So
no worries. All I was going to say was that I think young people are so much better equipped in the language and the understanding of mental health, though. And, if I can say our generation, Jay, we would never in a million years have talked about a mental health at high school. Like, it just wasn't a thing. But now young people are equipped, and that can be challenging, I think, as a parent, because we have an older mindset around how to, support our kids in that space. So, programs such as Read the Play are so important to try and bridge that gap for me as a parent.
It can be a two-edged sword, though, can't it? Because you talk about it more and you're exposed to it more, or you don't.
Just about to say, I went and saw Michael Cargrig with you, and he talked about that, because one of the things that, as a father of 5 kids,
okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, but ranging from 18 through to 5, I think there is what's the word? But the element of the more we talk about it, the more
normalized it comes.
The more normalized, and maybe I think is there a greater prevalence of mental health because we're talking about it more, or because there are things in our society that are actually causing it? And I think Michael's point was right. He said it's both. Both are happening at the same time, but you cannot disregard the fact that kids are committing suicide, kids are having genuine mental health challenges. The prevalence is increasing. So yes, maybe talking about it creates a bit of a sense that more people maybe feel like they've got mental health challenges, but that's just the way it is.
And you talk about that, like we weren't talking about it. We probably still lost a lot of kids back then, but now we're talking about it. The stats are there. It's really alarming, and maybe we lost more, or like whatever it is. Like I agree with you. Like it's yes, our environment and the factors that play a part in it. Yes, it's talking about it because we can also put, this is like that labeling in a way for positive reasons to then be able to help and support them through it. But I don't think there's any other way to go through it except to talk about it so that you feel comfortable, because not talking about it makes it feel like shameful or like it's weakness.
Yeah, and I think it's like a pendulum that maybe it swings, a fair way past where it needs to be. But by talking about it, we'll actually find that happy medium where, and we talked to, I was trying to think who hit your friend who was a psychologist. Narelle.
Yeah.
And we're talking about that same thing from like autism. Autism's gone through the roof. I've got a child who's autistic, and I think, is there more autism, or is it because we're just talking about it more and we're getting assessments for people to actually understand what was there?
Yeah.
So I don't know. All I know is that I'm there to support my kids and everyone else around that needs support.
It's like anything. We're never gonna cure it. We're never gonna not have, like having to deal with, sadness and pain and things like that. But we can like obviously provide solutions and support to aid in it, so it doesn't have to be as drastic. Yeah, you're never going to eradicate it entirely, are you?
No.
But you can help support to make it obviously a little bit nicer and easier to live with.
Now, Maddie, we're going to wrap this one up. Hopefully you'll join us for another episode at some point in the future. I know there's a bunch of stuff that we haven't covered off on. We will link into the show notes, Read the Play, and all the work that Michelle's doing, and your patronage with Read the Play. What else have you got going on in your world? Any other closing messages? What do you got going on? Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Oh, yeah. You can hit me up on social media and stuff like that. I'm potentially looking at a few exciting stuff. So, yeah, we'll watch that space, I guess. But I'll still do some commentating, still be doing some presenting around town. I'm getting back into some upstate fitness instructing, which I'm excited about. And they're actually starting to, actually develop a Pilates program.
Which one are you doing? My wife goes to upstate.
Oh, I'm in Torquay. I'm Torquay gal.
All right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm across all disciplines, so I could teach all, but I'm just doing reformer at the moment. But I love it, and I might get into a bit of education space there as well, which is exciting. Always lots happening. I'm always also open to catching up with people, as I said, building relationships, building connections. Like, you never know. Like, if I hadn't been at the Read the Play, I wouldn't have met you, Jay, and I wouldn't be here. So, like, I'm always open to exploring different things as well. But the one message, or like to finish on like a quote that I always really love, and I kind of stand by because of my journey, is that missing out on something good redirects you towards something great. So, hopefully that's a little bit of wisdom for someone out there.
Beautiful. Maddie, thanks for joining us. Look forward to having you back on. Thanks, Delta. And congratulations again to Michelle and Read the Play for everything they're doing. We'll see you next time. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're keen to understand more about how financial advice could benefit you, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Burke Britton FP, or Google Burke Britton Financial Partners. Check out our client reviews, testimonials, and make a time to meet one of our certified financial planners by clicking Book Now on our website. Thanks for listening.
Any information contained in this podcast is of a general nature only. No account was taken as to the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. Therefore, before making any decision, listeners should consider the appropriateness of any information with regard to their particular objective, financial situation, needs, and seek independent advice from a licensed professional specific to their circumstances.
All right, hit it.
That translates to don't be a moron and act on what some random person says on a podcast. Take personal responsibility. Do your homework. Ask questions and speak to an actual human that knows what they're talking about before you do anything. PP Financial Solutions Proprietary Limited, trading as Burke Britton Financial Partners, are authorised representatives of AMP Financial Planning Limited, AFS, licence number 232706.